Hello Internet, welcome. Today we're going to try a new plugin for pytest that I'm not aware of, that I'm now aware of, which is pytest container. This is supposed to help us run containerized workloads and test them with pytest, which is a combination of two things that I like. One of them is pytest and the other one is reproducible workloads. So let's try to make things work. I have not installed yet. I have not tried to run anything yet with this thing, but I have set up from before a nice repo with a lot of things set up, so things will work as smoothly as possible, and we'll only need to debug the actual usage of the plugin and nothing else. What we have here is that we have a nice fast API server that does not a lot of things, just has a sum endpoint, which basically sums A and B, which we pass in as query params, and returns the sum of them. Not surprising, nothing special. Here we have a test with fast API's test client, which is really useful. It's actually not really fast API. This is actually from Starlet, but fast API re-exports it just so we'll have a smooth and clean development experience. And this assertion obviously works because we're not doing anything special here. And we have pytest to show for that. And we'd like to have something that is just as simple as testing as a module, but has that wrapped in a container so we can have actually, we could test the whole thing with HTTP as if it was deployed in production, or as closely as it would be deployed in production. So now that we have this out of the way, by the way, we also have here, I've manually spun up this Docker image just to make sure things work. And we have it listening on port 8000. And we can actually test it manually, of course, with, well, you guessed it, CURL. And here we get the actual sum of 1, 2, 3, 4 added with 4, 5, 6, 5, 7. Let's test it out. That's actually working. 4, 5, 6, 6, 5, 7. 4, 6, 8, 9, 1. Yep, this works. But we don't like manual testing, we like automated testing. So let's continue with actually trying to make this work. So let's read up documentation, which is mostly stored here. And let's try to understand what goes on here. So supposedly we have the ability here to actually build Docker files. So let's try to understand how we actually do that. Maybe the getting started thing should be working well. And we do have, I think, xdist and I have pre-installed both the plugins that are recommended here. So let's just verify that. We have them in the group test. Yeah, we have Python xdist and Python pytest container, which means that we can continue on with actually writing code. So from pytest container, auto container parameterize. This is supposed to be placed in conf test. Yep, so we can do that quite easily. This up here. So this is just a function. It's not even a fixture. But metafunc, probably a fixture. Not sure. I'm not familiar with this thing, but we can either read it up or continue as usual. And now, there are basically something. We don't need that. Plug the Docker file into the pytest container. So let's run this from pytest container, import derived container. Some base container file. Interesting. So we could have actually tested things without writing our own Docker file, which is curious. Could we run this with a local Docker file? We'll see in a minute. From is omitted from the container file. pytest container includes it automatically. Okay. So this is a derived container, but we actually might want to use our actual container file. By the way, this is the container file that we have prepared beforehand, which is just installing Python, like deriving from like the Python base image, copying our dependencies, installing them. This is like some black magic that I used just to make sure that installs things install as quickly as possible, so we won't waste time on like dependencies. In order to make this work in production, you probably need to set up Docker build X, which is not the thing that you usually do, but it is recommended if you like fast installations. And once we set up the installations, we basically install our own package, our application, which is like contained here in this server module. And after that, we chmod our start script and start the server. Our start script is quite simple, has Gunicorn with the UVicorn worker, and it binds to our server and just bootstraps and serves it. Now that we have maybe like a broader image, let's try to understand how to get working with this thing. So maybe let's try to just import things from here. So container, maybe this one is one we actually full container, prepare container. Do we have like a build thing? Sure. Oh, by the way, probably we'd like to have, I'm not sure, I'm not sure if this actually respects like metadata, but we can expose port 8000 just to be like extremely clear to whoever's building this thing that this is like the thing that we actually want to happen. Let's try to understand if we have something better, which is like I want to actually reference our local Docker file and not pull anything out ourselves. Tips. Testing local images. Container storage. Copy files at build time. I'm pretty confused by the fact that we don't reference the local Docker file at any point here. We just, I mean, we could essentially read that ourselves, but I'm really not into trying to do that because we want to have this as automated as possible. Okay, so this is not that interesting because it's tutorials getting started. We've been here before. Okay, so let's just try to maybe have this, first of all, not here, but not in the conf test, but in our actual test. So let's import that and introspect everything that it accepts, and let's try to understand what can we actually do with this. So this looks like a data class, which we can actually try to build the format of it case container provided. Go with not container case but container to here. This is also a data class, but this does not have any members. Probably not our thing. Let's try to look up things in the wild with this pytest container. Let's look at their own tests. This probably would be better. First of all, they don't have here any Docker files. They do have a Docker ignore. They might have like a Docker file somewhere here. It's nothing interesting. Yeah, so no Docker files directly. Which makes me wonder, how does this work? Test container build. That might be useful. So local foo bar has barf. Okay. Localhost and like this. Quite interesting that they have like multi-stage builds here. What do we do with this container? URL. This work? Git repository. That actually. Oh. Local. Maybe local. Local image storage. My local image. To have this as like also build my image and not have to build the image myself, but maybe I'm missing something. Okay, so local container storage, my local image. That's quite sad, but let's go with that. Local container URL equals to well, container storage, and that would be, I've built it manually here, and the name is test pytest container. Well, yeah, it's we need anything else? Doesn't look like it. Oh, so it's just not colon slash slash, it's just colon, and let me copy that because I cannot type. Containers storage. Yeah. Okay. Good thing I checked. And how would we use this now? We have a container, some container, that's all right. And we like to have this pytest mark parameterize container per test. That's not interesting at all. Is this like we need to somehow make this a fixture? Real container images test help works auto container. Okay, so test HTTP, I guess. This is not a thing. Auto container. What do we do with that? We say res auto container connection run expect. Okay, so this is probably also a container. Is it? No, something else. What is this? I believe something here is like not as I expect it to be. I'm now trying to understand like how these things work because I have no idea. Okay, so we'd like to do something like forwarded ports. Yep, that is a good thing because we do need to forward ports here. Just as an int or something else. Port forwarding container ports. Yep. By the way, this text code looks terrible. Let's turn on black maybe. This would probably help us stay like a little bit more sane. See if it's working. Yay, okay. So we have black now, and this would keep us a little bit more, well, our code a little bit more clean as we develop now. And maybe let's zoom out just a wee bit. And have container images. And they are, let's run this now. Let's move this to our conf test because this is probably something that's shared between a lot of things. Typing, no, that's from here. That's the container we're looking for. and also forwarding from pytest. Yep. And this auto container thing, I can't believe this is like the thing that we actually want for, we aim for. So we have container images here. What do we do with them? Helpers. It adders, metafunc, auto container. Okay, so yeah, this is as I thought. Pytest meta function. And what do we do with that? Because pytest generate tests. Oh, pytest generate tests. That's all right. And what else do we need to do with this? Okay, so container images is a magic name. This is quite terrible, but okay. Let's apparently have that here. And container images is a list of containing local. And what is name of, like, what is auto container? I'm still missing some of the context here. So auto container what does that inject here? Okay, so this is something like callable that accepts something and container data. Okay, this looks way more useful than nothing. So is this container data? Run expect? No. Damn it. Run expect. I'm pretty sure I need to somehow understand like what this is. So, oh, is it connection? Interesting. So does container data have a connection thing? It does have a connection. But this is any. Oh, so annoying. Bad types. The test infra connection to the running container. Interesting. So this is probably something that I also need to be aware of because I'm not familiar with pytest test infra. Pytest test infra. Do we need to install this manually ourselves? Poetry, add group test, pytest test infra. Okay, so no dependencies changed. So we had that already, but now we're explicitly dependent on that. So we might not actually want it to be explicitly dependent. So let's remove this. Okay, so we do have already pytest test infra, but that means that if we'd like to know what the type of this is, then we need to cast it because this is just a black hole of like any. And I'd really prefer to know like what goes on here. So from pytest, from test infra, import connection. What do we have here? Plugin. Here it only has get host for test infra dot main. What do we have here? Nothing. Calling test infra is deprecated. Okay, not interesting. Here we only have host. And let's find here the connection. Get host, host. Not a whole lot happens here. What goes on? What's going on? Oh, that looks better. Okay, so it's a backend. Currently, this is a backend. Okay, and here this is like the run expecting. Yep. So this is now. And let's try to figure out what's going on here. So this is test infra backend. Let's go with base backend directly right now. Let's like pretend we don't know this is actually like Docker, and this does not have run expect. And if we go here with Docker, let's go with from test from this. Let's go test Docker directly, Docker backend. So this does not have run expect, which means this is still not true. That's quite bad. Run expect. Where is that thing? Expect. I'm completely confused. Okay, modules base def run expect. The class method that, well, goes to a host and then runs run expect. So what is this host? Test infra host host. That means that this what we have here is this the test infra this is now okay, this now runs the thing that we actually expected maybe to be. Interesting. Okay. So this was a long detour to understand like what goes on when we try to read this line and understand what it actually does. So what is this 0? This might be answered here in the documentation. Run a command and check it returns an expected exit status. List of expected exit status. Okay. So this means that but why is it in a list? Does it do anything expected? Checked out. Okay, so it's could be a set of exit statuses, basically. You can expect a range of things. Might be 0, 1, or 1, 2, 3. Okay. Quite not what I expected, but sure, let's go with it. So now let's try to bootstrap maybe this container, because we want to run it in the background while we try to actually make some kind of connection to it. So this is container data. This is our host, which I would probably contribute like this type hint to their thingy, because, well, this is crazy that it's just typed as any right now. And what we'd like to maybe do is, how do we run this? And like run it. I want to run it in the background. Let's try to read the docs. Actually, maybe let's just try to read this and like run this and see what goes on. So what is this run testing? This real thing? Message tips. Prepare container. From okay, this looks interesting. Is not really as smooth as I'd hoped it to be. All about like building the thing. I want to see how to test the thing. This is the actual interesting stuff. So per pod test. Pod data. Yeah, sure. Or container data. Yeah. Where was this before? Post, run expect. Interesting. So I could have had this as a fixture because test infra is like same. That is so nice. It's also like typed. That's so cool of them. So we don't need this. We don't need to have a connection from here. Just need to pull this in. Let's try to import this now from test infra host. Also here? No. Okay, that's quite all right. Not listed in requirements. That's all right. We don't care about that right now. And does that mean that the container is already spun up? So we can now CURL localhost to our forward port 0 host port. Let's try to run that. That looks actually okay. Host. And pytest. If this is working, like this is, yeah, this should not work. Selected runtime podman does not exist on system. Yeah. Why do we not use just Docker? Default podman and select podman present. If podman and Docker are both present, the Docker turned. If the okay, so we need to set that to actually the yeah conf test. Def pytest. Can we just set env with pytest somehow? Or need to like container runtime? Okay. Looks maybe like what we actually want to do. Runtime. define the runtime ourselves before without actually like having Podman now? Please. Be here. Runtime. Ah, so disappointing. Okay, at pytest. Arc. How does that work? I always forget. Pytest fixtures monkey patch set env. I really want to just have this all the time. Not the monkey patching way. I just need that to be like true always. Never mind. Let's just do container runtime equals Docker. Quite sad, but sure. Pytest. Valid syntax. That's alright. That's my fault. Fail! Amazing! Okay, so we have like something here. Was it spun up though? How do we know? So let's see. Build command docker build force rm. That's not the thing that we want. Let's see. Host. We have like, I don't know, auto container for the ports, container ID, connection, image, URL, or ID. Inspect. What do we have here? Args, pig. Interesting stuff, but where is that? Well, salt. Empty reply from service. Oh, actually, empty reply is all right because we have not done the thing that we actually wanted to do, which is say here some. Maybe that would just work. Probably not, but let's try. Amazing. What? That just work? Like, I'm cert. If this is like actually a thing, this is crazy. Hey, okay. This is way more. This makes way more sense than actually like trying to. This shouldn't have worked. That's all right. Okay, so our CURL does something. Actually, let's not silence. Let's go with like B. So what goes on here? So this is like an auto-bound port to our machine, which is all right. Then we try to send a request to localhost blah 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 into that port. Then to our URL, and this should is this some that's the right endpoint that I've defined. Let's go with this module. Yeah, some A and B equals something. That's all right. And now, is the host running? Like, is it actually running? Let's try to spin it up and see what's going on. Because I'm not believing it that actually spun up the container. So it can't bind, that's all right. Parallel test execute through xdist. Still dependent container images in order. Run the same test 20 containers on as many container images as necessary. Okay. Create, launch, or destroy Podman pods. So, pytest mark parameterize container W indirect container. That's actually way more nicer than the auto container thing. Like, this is crazy and this is not crazy. I don't want auto container. I just want container. Yeah, this is like, that's way better. And now, container connection file exists. Let's just see if this actually a thing. Just so we'll have like a better understanding of what goes on here. So this might be, let's go with app slash my project normal, because we know that has to be there. Then this assertion should pass. This one, now we need to understand how to actually bootstrap the thing, because we want to run like the command from the Docker image. Which from my understanding, that means like now we have a connection to that container, but it's not actually running. So run functional test on operating system container images, verify software on multiple operating systems. Fixture handling health checks, tips. Test local image, test runtime version, copying files into closing ports, setting up bind mounts container volumes. None of these are like amazing. Want the like spin it up with the default command. Where is that thing? But we can maybe just have that ourselves. Maybe let's just try to have this. So this run expect thing. What else do we have here in the so run test. Run a command, check if its exit status is 1 or 0. Okay, so first of all, like this is the actual thing that we want to use, because run expect is like the lower level option here. Run test is basically, probably I would expect it would just call run expect. Yeah, makes sense. Run command and check and exit status of 1 or 0. Oh, that's not good. We want always just 0. But anyhow, what we'd want to do is maybe something like run. This would be script start now, and we'd like to have that like maybe in a thread. It's terrible, but I'm not sure how to attack that. Target post run args equals to this thing for threading. Is not the right thing. Target. Okay, probably had a typo. E equals thing, then try. E start, and finally, oh, we probably need something like host signal. Please have the, like some kind of signal container connection. Not good. Not good. I don't like this. Oh, I'm so frustrated right now. Entry point. Okay, please. Pytest container will, by default, when entry point is set to auto, automatically pick the correct entry point for your container. Oh, this is so good. Where was this all the time? Okay, so in our code here, let's have an entry point, and we say auto. Not the right way to say that. Entry point selection. Selection. What else do we have here? Is it auto bash? So maybe let's define our own entry point then. Let's try to do that and let's see if this helps. Because right now it only says command, it does not define it as entry point. So let's go with just entry point directly. I believe this is the way. Docker file entry point. Make sure that we're not running with bad syntax. Executable param1, param2. Okay, so this is the thing that we actually want to do. With no parameters, whatever, whatsoever. And now let's build our image for a minute. This should be Docker build. Like, yeah, not a lot of time. And now, please work. Please work. So no threading thread. We don't need to like have this. And like we don't need to run this ourselves. And we have localhost, and this port needs to be, well, this port is container get forwarded port 8000, and let's just find the port here. This number is going to be different than 8000. This is thing that the package is supposed to basically deliver, which is handling all the forwarding stuff, so we don't need to like meddle with that. And let's go with a equals 1 and b equals 2. And this is supposed to be, well, let's go with strip. And yeah, please work. Go here with pytest. And it fails because it says object has no attribute thingy thing. What? What is this? Get forwarded port. Not the thing. Container forwarded ports. Yeah. Is this like a list? That's quite sad, but okay. would have appreciated like a set where we could index through the port itself, but we can like make it quite easily. But let's move on. And now it says assertion empty string does not equal 3. And this is quite sad because we definitely would have wanted to like access maybe all this log. Actually, let's see if they have like a logging thing. Maybe this could really help us if we could actually see like what goes on logging wise. Okay, so they do have like some kind of logging thing. Usage tips. Configure logging. Yep. Let's just paste that into here without thinking about it too much. And have this imported. What else do we need to do? We need to build derive base. Okay, so network host looks like maybe a thing that we actually want to say. Extra build args, network host, extra build args, no cache. Try with this one and let's see what. Ini file none. Unrecognized argument. Add. To have that. Pytest add option. Yep. But also this one. Logging level option parser. Interesting. So pytest container log level. Okay. Good of RTFM, definitely. Log level equals debug. Please be nice. Oh, that is nice. Wow. Okay, this is way, way better now. So let's see what we have here. We have our server started. And then our assertion, when does it fail though? Requesting the container. Uh, Captured log teardown. Debug. Logs from container. So port rerun Gunnycorn. This actually happened, which is way nicer than what I'd expected to have. But why can't we just bind to this port then? Network. Entry point and stop signal. Yeah, so we have that thing. Proxy pod. This looks like it's supposed to work. extra run args. That may be the thing that we actually aim for. Extra run and build args. So extra run args. Post. Okay, let's try to use this here. And here it's action is used. Ooh, okay, so this actually had some impact on our life because right now it means that we are actually, like, we have actually successfully bound the image in Docker to our NIC, try to bind our Docker to our NIC, and then the fact that we had here an image spinning meant that this didn't successfully bind. So this is actually like a good thing, but we don't need this when we run things because we're supposedly we should just have a port working. So this is now bound to our container, and if we maybe open the dashboard, maybe we'll see the history of like what I tried to run here. And all was cleaned up after nothing removed. Only show running containers. Maybe let's try like this, and let's run it again. Oh, so for a minute there, we saw our port. Let's try to maybe literally sleep and then try to like ourselves. Okay. Time, sleep. Let's give ourselves 20 seconds and then test it with curl once we have that spinned up. So the port here is localhost 56795. And let's go to curl and type 56795. And we got an answer. So that means that our container has spun up. Now that it's done, it should not work anymore. Yep. Amazing. So it does spin up and it is reachable from our host, which means our test is like right now incorrect. But apart from that, it works. So let's not do this with curl, maybe. Let's try to, like, let's not run it on the host itself. Let's try to run it externally. So we have our port, which is the thing that we want. And let's try with HTTPX and actually run a GET request to this port and do sum of A and B. Import that and response. If this works, then like this is a victory, an amazing victory. We have removed our time.sleep and let's run this. Fail. It says server disconnected without sending a response. Local container 0. So maybe let's go with logging error port. Just so we'll have a little bit more. Okay, so log call tear down. So it does say the actual port is the right thing. And we have seen this, like, by the way, this is from here, which is a good thing. But captured log setup. Okay, so we have in the setup, we have this binding here. Maybe we need to like wait a little bit until it's like completely spun up. let's try to actually like literally sleep before we do anything. So time sleep 1 second. Just 1 second. Let's see if this. Okay. So this actually works. So before we actually spin up the container and try to make requests to it, we have to make sure that we have the server running. Okay. But by the way, this is getting somewhere. I don't know if you've noticed, but this is an amazing test. Like once we have this set up, and we still need to debug like how to build local image every time on test. Like maybe we can actually say something about that. I don't know. Let's think about it. Like, but the container ID, by the way, we can probably have it as like this is our server. So just when we probably debug things, then we'll have better. Ooh, I think I broke something. Okay, never mind. Let's not meddle with this ID. And we now need to basically say something like we need a fixture, which means server is bootstrapped, and we give it like, I don't know, 3 seconds to do so. And if it does not respond within 3 seconds, then we do have to like raise an error and say like this actually failed. So let's try to maybe build this thing. So let's go with pytest fixture scope session, and that is our server container. And this depends on, can we do that thing? Auto container? This is where we actually probably do the auto container thing. Because we auto container, which is container data. And no, that's not return local. This is return auto container. And before we actually do this, let's go with host. We haven't used host. So HTTP available equals false, while not available, while not HTTP available. X get something. That's a response. Try. And error pass. And we definitely should do something like limit the amount of attempts that we have we make this, but let's just grind our computer for a minute and let's see if this actually works. Yeah. So this is our server container. Should work. No need for this. No need for our host. We're not using it right now. Oh, we are actually using it right here, but this is actually better. And please work. This should grind things to a halt. And it says the same thing before. What do we have here? Logs from container. It did not get any requests, which means this does not raise an error. Response is error. It's success. Let's go with alive. That is like fancy success. Else, yeah, we don't do anything. Or actually, let's just go with response rates for status. This should throw. Yep. And let's modify our server to have a live thing. Main py server. And live. Amazing. Just return okay. Yeah, sure. Whatever. Oh, actually, the right thing to do here is not write it the way I did it, is actually to write something like, instead of this, scope of the session, we just say server alive. This returns none. This also depends on the same fixture before, so this is pytest mark parameterize container. Yep. But also we say pytest mark use fixture server alive. Yep. This now mustn't do anything. This just needs to basically loop until the server is alive. Then, yeah, available true. This says fixture C does not exist. Test forward port. Fixture C. Have I done this wrong? I have. Container per test, direct true. Yeah, and this is grinding because, as I said, this is probably like not leaving a lot of time for things to actually happen here. So let's just go with time sleep 001. Yeah, this should work. Ooh, this won't work because we have not built up our server yet. So yeah, let's do that. We're basically now just refreshing the image, so we'll have our alive endpoint, which, by the way, we can test now here by going to alive, saying okay. And I test earlier. Failed. Okay, interesting. So our server should be now alive because this is what we've been told. But we've been setting up two services at the same time. Like this is not the same container now. Because this is an auto container and not using the same thing. So, I wonder if how can we inject the same one? So we can try to use the auto container now. And not use this one. This might work, might not. There's an error. So each one is getting an isolated container. Oh, it says PyProject toml does not exist. Interesting. Now I'm super confused. Logging error. Let's just go with logging info host. We have here is probably something we go with verbose. This says now captured log setup teardown. This is not the thing that I want. Want is post. Why does this not work now? Is it not in app? I changed something? Copy to app. Auto container 0. Put the right one. We actually see her. Tear down. Wait, this is on the hosting. Oh, I see. So this is actually should be the I've actually broken it. Amazing. So what do we have here then? This is ourselves. This is like so if we'd like to have our host do something, then we actually use the host and not the connection. So run expect now should actually like depend on the curl in my computer. And first of all, let's run expect 0 live. That's actually what we want to do here is have std out equal okay. Yep. Okay. So does that mean that we can also use the thing that we thought we didn't like do first? Okay. Let's try to clean this up. We don't need this assertion anymore. This is our port. We can just use that. And we can now use this thing. So this host is actually controlling, like this is running shell scripts locally, which is the thing that we probably want when we want to curl something, or we could just use our HTTPX client, which is all right. And we can just also now say HTTPX get live status code. And better than status code is just seeing the text okay. And we do have this fixture now here, which I'm not sure is if it's useful or not. When I'm running this first, it's actually not get host. Run curl out strep okay. Which assertion is failing? The first one? Yep. So this is a matter of like timing still, because this does not work as we've seen, because each one gets their own container. So we have to do something like wait for things to bootstrap before we do anything. So how do we manage this? This is annoying. Annoyingly annoying. Let's see if they have any tips on that, because right now their tips have been useful, even though not as informative as I would have liked them to be. Wait. So this is not the thing I want. I want something like catching, exposing ports, API documentation, fixtures, tutorial. Unexpect my binary. So this is not the thing I want, because this is actually running locally, things locally. But I'd want to do is wait for things to boot up. Image. No sleeping. E port. Closing ports from extra launch args. This might be useful. Flags. For the Docker daemon itself, not what I'd want. Get launch command turns like the thing. Local singleton indicates whether there must be never more than one running container of this at all times, because it opens a shared port, for example. Prepare container. Here, extra build args. So this is interesting. I'd really want to see like what do they say do with prepare container. Container prepare usage tips. The prepare container and get launch command method support passing additional argument flags. Figure logging. Wow. Logging here, like the documentation here is quite horrendous, but that's all right. We'll try to figure it out somehow. Maybe let's try to literally use like sockets. This would probably end badly, but oh, does host have a socket? No. Gate connection, localhost port, timeout 1. Oh, that's actually nice, because this would actually this would do the thing that we actually wanted to do, which is exactly try to like connect for socket timeout. Yeah, pytest failed, port forwarding did not work. Yeah, sure. Or let's actually maybe try to say something better, which is server did not start. Finally, no, else. Socket close. Yep. This should clean up things. Let's try to, and finally, del socket. We don't need to do that. We'll probably just pass that to like another function in a minute. Pytest, please work. Hey, shit. And it says nothing. Yep. Server did not start. Maybe we want to do something like socket send. And let's not do like low level HTTP here. So how would we do this? Because we do want to we can have that like internally, actually. Interesting. Quite horrendous, but maybe we can just work with that. So container connection. And this is, as we said, this is let's run, let's call that OS. This is a host as well. And we can now run things internally, which are poetry, actually, cd into app. And this is terrible. Wow, oh my god, this is terrible, terrible. Poetry run Python in C and import socket listen. Interesting. No, we don't want to bind socket here. We want to create a connection. Yeah, this is, we like to say connect. And with timeout of 1 second. Oh my god, this is horrible. So horrible. Run expect 0. No way this works. Yeah. Unexpected status code 0 to can't cd to app. That's because, well, NSH already in app. I'm not sure, but let's just say poetry run Python testing because we are not inside anything here. This now says create connection. Was it not create connection? Socket create connection is a thing. Oh, I see. So we're not supposed to do this with S. We're supposed to say socket create connection. Then not assigned to requested address. Let's stop. This is horrible. Time sleep 1. Is it not enough? Time sleep 3. Must be enough. structured log teardown. Wait, so this does not work on the setup? This is in the teardown. What the hell? Why does this work only, like, why? Just why? Auto container, connection, run, expect, 0. Like, I don't know, do something. So somehow this actually, like the previous thing that I did somehow worked with the same container. I'm confused now. Completely confused. But trying to basically go back to the point where we had our at fixture session rams is no def server alive auto container. This is going to run and yeah, this is the thing. What I want here is obviously the port. This formatted with the port here. Say 5 seconds, kind of. Server not alive, sure. And let's try to test mark use fixture server alive. If this somehow works, I'm gonna go nuts. Server disconnected without sending a response. And this is let's maybe clean this up a little bit. So let's try this. Response. If response 200, yeah, we can expect HTTPX error. Which error? Do they have like a base error? Base class for request error, HTTP status error. Response raise for status. This is the thing that we want. And if not, then break. Oh, not break, return. Yep. Fact. Sleep. Yep. Fail. Crap. Says assert okay, not okay. Oh, I see. Interesting. So this is actually, this has worked, but this is, well, because CRL does not do anything for us, so we can just remove this right now. And please work. Fail. Assert. So we're actually serializing this as a JSON string. So this is um, JSON dumps of this. Okay. So this somehow works. I'm not sure why, but working. So I'm not gonna like understand how this works. Um, what happens if we comment out the scope thing and we just keep it as a regular fixture? It works. Okay. So we have wasted so much time because I assumed this is launched in another container, but this is not true. So what we have here right now is the following stuff. We have here a fixture that basically just polls the server until it says that it is alive. So we have some kind of like health check, which is important because without it, then we don't know that we can actually run any load against the server. Handling health check. Oh, how have I missed this before? This is quite frustrating. Um, health check timeout. Container file. Health check is indeed true. What? This a thing? I wasn't aware that was something that like switches can do. Docker file. I did not know that. What? This blows my mind now. I was not aware this is a thing. That means I could have like an internal health check, which is like completely bound to the server, and we can now undo this thing. Let's try that. This is amazing. Okay, so we don't need right now to depend on the fixture because basically this should just work for some like weird definition of just fail. And it says remote server disconnected without sending a response. Let's try to understand like how to use Docker health checks because this would have been nice. Um, Start period. Okay, so maybe let's try to read about this because apparently I did not know about this important thing. Health check. Health check options command. Health check none, that's probably the default. Default, yeah. Duration, start period, 0. Okay, so let's actually try to do. So our start period should be like, let's say 5 seconds, no more than that. Actually, even let's say 2 seconds. No, this is supposed to be like a completely same time for. Oh, this is not good because we don't need to say or exit one because this would always fail. So let's try to undo this thing and just say, yeah, CRL. So it either succeeds. If it's fail, yeah, this should just work. Just. Oh, sorry. Let's rebuild this because without it, we're fucked. And let's say Docker why not to use curl or AWR? The problem with curl, AWR, nice and drawbacks when you production grade Docker image. Oh, interesting. Um, is this like a proper drawback if we're like having curl just so we can like, health check ourselves? Your life specific tool, your Docker becomes less portable. There's the limit on what you can do with a simple HTTP tool. Um, okay, so we can just use ourselves as the health check. Sure, whatever. Seems like I'm not buying this. Definitely not buying this. I definitely am just going to do this thing without thinking about it so much. Yep. And let's rebuild the Docker image and not think about this whatsoever. And now, please pytest just work. Fail. Remote protocol error. 4. Setup. Tester retesting the pytest container. We need to maybe specify anything else here, like health check timeout. And is this the thing? No, this should be time delta. Seconds 10. Oh, yep. What this should have been just HTTP localhost 1000. I am completely baffled by this right now. Run the label pytest container request sub request auto container function test port forwarding setup. Container has health check defined. Will wait at most 10 milliseconds. That's not good. Container has health status. No health check. But that's not good. Yeah, so I definitely requested 10 seconds just to make sure milliseconds. Let's just go with this just to make sure that the printing is what I expect it to be. Yep, 10 seconds, 500 milliseconds. So this is okay. And now, what else can we say about this shit? Base container. Container ID, URL, custom entry point, extra launch args, health check, timeout, singleton, forwarded ports, volume mount is local. When the value is none, then the timeout will be inferred from the container's health check directive. So we don't need to actually do anything with this. So let's try to remove that in our test here. And just to be sure that this actually now is this is actually respected, let's see if it actually mentions the health check at any point here. It does not. Quite frustrating, but let's go back to our Docker file and try to make this work. So this is something. Yep. Interval. Timeout 3 seconds, retries 3. Let's say 5, just to be like super. This should be alive. And yep, I believe this should work. Let's just make sure that you're all, we have like, isn't it dash dash fail or something? Fail? Let's see. URL dash dash fail. 2, 5. Okay. And now if we go to this, yeah, fails. Amazing. So URL dash dash fail, that's the thing that we want. Do we have curl installed in this? Maybe this is like failing. Let's see. Run command dash curl. Oh, that's quite nice. No, not pip. Let's go with before everything. Probably here. So like the thing we want. But only if command v not apt-get, but URL. Or do all of this. Yep. Now we will learn whether we actually had curl, and maybe this is why we failed all the time. Okay, so we do not have curl on this container. This should now build quite quickly. But also, like, why didn't this just fail everything? I would expect for this to not boot. Or at least, like, try to die after retrying for so much time. Okay, so this is now working. Please work. No health check. Scanner has. So this is actually untrue. how do we mitigate this? Let's go back to this documentation and container with health check. So get container health. Parameterize container with health check. Okay, that's just the one container runtime. Interesting. So we do have this apparently. Container time. This importable thing runtime all port something. Give me something. Test infra. Backend. Okay, first of all, logging error. What the fuck is this runtime? I'm lazy to check myself. It says removing container Docker runtime. Port from pytest container. Oh, so it's from pytest. That's surprising. From the plugin. Okay, so now that we know what this is let's say get container health container ID and assert something. No health check. This is supposed to be healthy. Since it has no health check, then we definitely do not use it correctly. Latest. Okay. Small catch when building health check. This directive is only supported for Docker images, while the default with Docker build by default is OCIV1, which does not support health check. Sure, your images health check. Set the attribute image format to Docker. Where is this image format? Image format. Optional format when building image builder. Ignored and the container runtime is Docker. This is not for us because we're not actually using. So this is quite, we've gone down quite the rabbit hole just to make sure that our container actually boots up correctly. And I say we cut our losses, declare this is a failure, just use our terrible server alive fixture, which is right here. No fancy health checks. Also not here. And we don't need curl, which is nice to remove dependencies. And rebuild everything here. And have our server work. This looks like it actually took not too long. Can we time everything here? Like I'm quite interested if this actually took more time than like nothing. Another thing that we might want to actually do here is maybe now, okay, this is a good time to address the fact that right now we are not building our image here. We're actually we're just pulling the latest build that we built manually. And maybe we want to actually use like this derived container thing, derived container, and have our base equal something and our content build be something. Let's see, was it entry point? No. How was it working, the derived thing? Do they have like a small... So class for storing information. Yeah, so derived container. Union container base string. Can we try to just maybe have this literally like an open file? Container file. I really want to give this like a path. Truly, I wouldn't understand how much I want to give this just a path with nothing else. Maybe this is like the patch that we actually need to send to this fella. Just go like import path from pathlib and just say, well, yep, Docker file. And actually, let's just maybe do this. Docker file is this. And we can just read text. And now we want to say from line everything else is split on actually Docker files. This is not robust, but we can say something like split on from something. Yep. Split one. Yep. So base could be from line. Everything else. Not is it not thing? Container file. Container file should be everything else. And just to be sure, how are we supposed to declare this from? We're not supposed to include the from. We're just supposed to include the base. So base from with nothing. This is not an amazing solution, but let's just try to make this work. base container must be provided. Haven't I provided the base container? Online, everything else. What do we have here? Okay, so currently this hasn't worked as I expected, so just a minute. And we're back. And okay, so we're trying to split this thing into basically the base image and everything else. So let's maybe try to do this like the dumb way, which is just saying base image rest equals split on the first line. This is now just a base image. We're replacing from with nothing, and everything else this. These work. And it says command docker pull turn none 0 git. Python slim. Why is it not working? What? So what do we have here? This errors out. Why does that happen? Auto container. Docker build force rm runner binary docker runtime functional. This variable stack trace launch container. Still need to build this thing. Docker pull. But maybe let's try to. Oh, URL. No URL now. We don't need that anymore. Do we? Build tags, pytest container, pytest. Python 3.11 slim. Why is this not a thing? Oh, there's a space. Dot strip. Well, apparently this is completely white space sensitive. And now, oh, this is verbose. So this should now basically be building everything for us. And this now passes. I am now super curious to see what actually happened here. So this is not an actual, we're just now building the image based on this Docker file, which is the actual Docker file. This is good. That means that we're every time building from scratch and always like running the latest thing. If this has changed, the caching of Docker would basically just bust the cache, and we just we'd have like the latest and greatest version. And that adds a bit of latency because we're now running Docker build before everything, but this is actually what we wanted because we actually wanted to have this be reproducible and as fast as possible. The only thing that I'd say that we need to fix here is basically this derivation of the top line here. This is terrible. This needs to go. And how do we make this go? I'm not sure, but we're gonna try to understand how to make this go, maybe in another video. Maybe we'll do like a follow-up one. But let me just maybe clean up everything a bit, and now we'll see that we have a really nice test suite. If we like, let's say, ignore this for a minute, what we have here is we have our source Docker file, which is just this one right here. And it's a good Docker file. It has like an import, and it does like the everything that you'd want it to do, which is caching and like be serving something. It's an application. And in our test, we import the Docker file. For some reason, we need to split it to like the pull image and the container file thing. Maybe we also need to somehow support like multi-stage builds. Maybe they have like native support for that, but we are forwarding the port because we know this one exposes port 8000, and we say entry point auto, which probably if we now look at it, this is like the default anyway. The health check, we don't do that. And we have our own build tags here, which we probably also don't need now because we're not going to tag them or push them anywhere. So we just define our import, our container file, and maybe actually what happens if this is, container, interesting. The container file that is used to build the container derived. I'm quite sad that this is actually not, there is no like, give me a Docker file. We probably maybe, we may need to, I may need to patch this library. Like this is a good library, but we need to like find a solution here. Which format? Yep. Anyhow, we have our local image that we're now building for every for the test. We bootstrap it with this magical thing here. Then we have our auto container fixture, which is something that is provided by the library. And our setup only does one thing that is important, which is it does the request directly to the container. We're just binding to the actual port that is on the container. And we can run our asserts now on our production image, which is quite useful. So I hope you enjoyed this. This actually could be, by the way, maybe the best thing that we could do here is like have no container file and just use a base image, which is like the built image that we pre-published to somewhere. But as I said, there is something that's like super useful for like building this thing on the fly with the latest and greatest code changes that you made just a few minutes ago. This was way longer than I expected, and I may redo this as a shorter video later if there are requests. Okay, hope you enjoyed and learned something new. I certainly did, and I certainly suffered from like trying to make this fragile thing work. But now I think I might have some like something useful here. Bye bye.